I fell asleep watching YouTube like I always do. Finals week, caffeine poisoning, brain fried, you know the vibe. The last thing I remember was some random video playing while I was face down on the pillow. When I woke up, the room was bright, my mouth was dry, and my phone was still on the nightstand. Only now it was recording. Red dot, timer stopped at 2 hours, 12 minutes. I just stared at it for a second thinking maybe I hit the wrong button half asleep. It was open on the camera app, aimed right at the ceiling like I'd filmed a documentary about drywall. I hit play. At first, it was what you'd expect. Me snoring, AC humming, a few shifts in the blankets. Then, right around 3:15 a.m., there was this click. The sound of my front door latch, clear as day. My place is tiny. 1 bedroom, living room, kitchen, done. So when that door opens, it's maybe 5 steps from where I'm sleeping. I turned the volume up, and I swear I could hear shoes on the linoleum. 2 pairs. 1 heavy, 1 quicker. No talking at first. Then a whisper. He's still asleep. I stopped the video so fast I dropped the phone. Just sat there, frozen, listening to the actual silence around me. Then I hit play again. Drawers opening, furniture shifting. They were moving things carefully, like they knew exactly where everything was. One of them said, TV first, and the other answered, laptop next. That's when my stomach turned. I jumped out of bed and ran to the living room. Gone. TV stand empty. Laptop gone. Drawers open. Remote on the floor. Everything looked searched through but calm, not ransacked. Like they were professionals, not kids breaking in. I ran to the door. No damage, no busted frame. Then I saw the little silver key on the hook by the door was missing. The spare key I'd made for contractors 2 days earlier when I had plumbers fix a leak. I checked my porch camera feed. At 3:12 a.m., 2 guys walk right up to my door wearing hoodies. They look down. One of them reaches out to the lock and walk right in. The same 2 I'd hired earlier in the week. I recognized one of their tool bags instantly. Bright red with black straps, name tag still hanging off. My chest was tight, but I kept scrolling through the camera app. The second clip showed them walking out with the TV wrapped in a blanket, just as calm as they walked in. No rush. One of them even looked straight at the porch light before closing the door behind him. They locked it on the way out. I called 911 with my hands shaking. The dispatcher asked if they were still there. I said no, just the mess. I told her I had video and that I knew who they were. She told me to stay outside until officers arrived. When the cops showed up, I played the phone recording. They listened, then rewound it back to the whisper. You could see their expressions change a little. They'd heard weird stuff before, but not this. One of them asked, "You hired these guys recently?" "Yeah, 2 days ago." "You give them a key?" "A spare for the plumbing job." He just nodded like that was answer enough. They dusted for prints, took my phone, took the porch footage, and told me they'd file it as a burglary with known suspects. I asked if they'd catch them. The older cop said, "We'll try." The younger one just said, "Change your locks." I did, that same day. New locks and no more spares. I even bought a wedge for my bedroom door because sleeping didn't feel normal anymore. The next morning, I got a call from the detective. He said the numbers on the invoice were disconnected, and the business license they used belonged to a real company that went under years ago. Basically, they built a fake business on top of someone else's name. A front. So yeah, they came into my home twice. First time to fix a leak, second time to rob me blind while I was snoring. I didn't tell my parents, just said school was stressful. I didn't want to deal with the "you should have known better" speech. I told one friend, she freaked out, posted warnings on our college group chat about fake contractors. Half the people didn't even believe her. A few days later, I watched the video again. I don't know why. The whisper still hit the same way. Calm, bored, confident. He's still asleep, like they were laughing at how easy it was. To this day, the police still haven't caught them. My TV showed up at a pawn shop months later, but I never picked it up. It felt contaminated, like bringing it back would bring the night with it. Now I keep things simple. No contractors without ID, no one gets a key. I pay for a porch cam subscription and check it way too often. It's funny though. I used to think paranoia meant you were broken. Turns out it's just experience with better reflexes. I still have that 2-hour recording saved on my hard drive. Haven't played it again since. I keep telling myself it's evidence, but the truth is, it's a reminder. That feeling of waking up not knowing what happened around you, realizing your home wasn't yours for 2 hours. People love to say, at least you weren't hurt. Sure, but once someone moves through your space while you're unconscious, it's like your body remembers it, even when you try not to. Now when I go to sleep, I do a little ritual. Lock, wedge, blinds, phone. The routine helps. It's not about feeling safe. It's about knowing that if something ever happens again, this time I'll be awake for it. We thought camping would be cute. First trip together, just me and my boyfriend, pretending we knew what we were doing. We burned half the marshmallows, laughed loud, and joked that the smell of smoke would keep bears away. By the time we zipped into the tent, it felt like the kind of night that would end with stories, not scares. It was quiet out there. Too quiet, honestly. No cars, no cell signal, just that little creek gurgling in the dark and the tent glowing orange from our lantern. We said goodnight like little kids at a sleepover. I remember feeling proud of us for actually doing it. Then, sometime after midnight, a twig snapped. You know that sound when it's not wind, when it's weight? That. Then another, farther to the side. I poked his shoulder. Deer, he mumbled. Deer, I said back, just to make it feel smaller. But then there was light. A flashlight beam slid across the tent wall, right over my face. It wasn't our lantern. I stopped breathing so hard I heard my heartbeat in my ears. The beam hovered, then clicked off. Silence, he whispered. Maybe a ranger? Rangers don't sneak. Rangers say something. The next sound was a boot scuff. Then another. Not one person. More. 2, 3. They were moving around the tent in circles. I heard low voices too quiet to make out, just a murmur like conversation without words. We didn't dare move. My phone had no service. The screen mocked me with SOS only. Then someone brushed the tent line, close enough that the fabric quivered against my hair. I swear I could feel the vibration in my scalp. I wanted to unzip the door and yell, but I knew the light would blind me first. More whispering. One voice said clearly, "Backside." The words dropped into the tent like cold water. My boyfriend's hand slid into his pocket and came out with his multi-tool. He mouthed, "If they open it," but didn't finish. Then something pressed against the pole near my shoulder, just enough to bend it inward, like someone testing the tension. I felt every muscle in my body tighten. We didn't move, didn't talk. You start realizing how thin that fabric really is, just one layer between you and whoever's outside. And then the light came back. It hit the roof, crawled down the side, and stopped on the zipper. Just sat there. Whoever held it was studying the entry point. My boyfriend reached for the alarm keychain I'd bought for walking home at night. His thumb found the pin. On 3, I mouthed. He nodded. I yanked it. The alarm shrieked so loud it ripped through the woods. High, endless. The tent lit up with the little strobe, flashing like a camera at a crime scene. The footsteps scrambled back, quick, scattered, one stumbled into another. For a second, I thought it was over. Then the sound stopped moving. They were still there, waiting. My boyfriend yelled, "We called the Rangers," even though we hadn't. I joined in, my voice shaking. "We recorded you." Another second passed. Then a heavy step. Another. The alarm screamed. And then, nothing. Just the creak again. The air felt sucked dry. We left the alarm on for 5 full minutes before jamming the pin back in. Neither of us slept. When dawn finally bled through the trees, I expected our gear to be a mess, but it was untouched. The ground, though, was a mess. Prints everywhere, big ones. Some circled, some stopped right beside the door. You could see where someone had crouched, knee marks in the dirt, and a handprint near the spot where the pole had bent. I showed my boyfriend. He just kept whispering, "Holy shit." We packed in record time. I think it took 8 minutes from zipper to trunk. Neither of us said much. The fear was heavy in the air, like smoke after a fire. A ranger found us on the road out and asked what happened. We told him everything. He looked serious, not dismissive, which almost made it worse. Said no other campers were registered near us, no volunteer crews in that area, no reason anyone should have been out there. That silence in the car ride back felt unreal. We'd been surrounded by people, at least 3, and somehow never seen a single face. Back home, I kept replaying one moment, the first light passing over my face. Whoever was holding it saw me. They knew exactly where I was, how close, how small. That image still comes back whenever a flash of light flickers through my blinds or a headlight passes my window. I don't think they were kids messing around. The way they moved, the whispering. It was like they were checking tents, not playing. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I think about the moment the alarm went off. How the sound sliced through everything fake about being brave. Fear isn't screaming or running. It's lying perfectly still while someone stands inches away, deciding what to do with you. We never went camping again. The tent's still in the closet, rolled tight, pine needles stuck in the folds. I can't throw it out, but I can't touch it either. Every now and then, I'll be walking to class and hear footsteps fall in sync with mine. I'll tell myself it's just coincidence, someone behind me. But that same tight feeling creeps up the back of my neck, the one from that night. The one that says someone's watching, waiting for you to move first. And the thing that really gets me, we never saw the flashlight again after the alarm, but sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still feel it. White light washing across my face. Right before the click. Night floors pay bonus. Overtime. No managers, no small talk. It's just me, the HVAC, and a building that feels like it's asleep with one eye open. I badge in at 10:58 p.m., grab my cart, and start at the top. The elevators here glide like they're proud of how smooth they are. I like that, machines doing what they're supposed to do. 5th floor is usually my midpoint. Break room, conference rooms, that long north hallway with the dumb framed quotes about excellence. I almost never see anyone up there. If a tenant pulls an all-nighter, they stick to their suites and keep headphones on. Some nights I can go 10 minutes without hearing anything but my wheels and the microfiber pad across glass. That night, I started on 7, dropped to 6, then took the elevator for 5. Before I could press 5, the car just stopped there on its own. I figured someone called it from the floor. No big deal. The doors opened. There was a woman in a hospital gown standing in the hall facing me. I said, wrong building. That came out dumb. This tower's offices and a small cafe. The hospital is a block over. She smiled like she was trying to reassure me. She didn't move. Bare feet, a plastic bracelet on her wrist. Her hair looked damp, like she'd just showered. My brain pulled up all the reasonable options at once. Patient got lost, family member wandered, someone playing a prank. I said, I can call security to walk you over. I stepped back to the desk phone that dials the guard office. When the guard answered, I kept one eye on her. Hey, I said, I'm on 5 with a woman who looks like... The elevator's doors closed. I pressed the button to reopen. There was no one there. Like she needs assistance, I finished, but my voice went thin. Can you check the cameras? Elevator hall, 5th floor. I just saw someone. Sit tight, the guard said. I'll scrub it. I let the doors close and stared at the corners like an idiot, as if she could be hiding by being too obvious. The steel walls reflected my face 6 different ways, each one more confused than the last. I took the car down to the lobby and walked to security. The guard on duty, Hernandez, a quiet guy with a tired face, had the elevator feeds up. He ran the footage back. We watched my cart glide into frame. Doors open. It's just me. I'm standing there, half in, half out, talking to nobody. I gesture like I'm keeping space for someone. I even tilt my head the way you do when you're trying to be friendly and non-threatening. There is no one else in the frame. Not even a flicker. Different camera angle? I asked. He flipped through them. Car cam, landing cam, hallway cam. No woman. On one angle, my body blocks part of the car, but not all of it. There's nothing to miss. He rewound again. Doors part, I speak. I reach back and slide the barrel in as a doorstop for an invisible person. You okay, man? Hernandez asked, like he was ready to call my supervisor if I started saying something wild. I'm fine, I said, though that wasn't true. You don't realize how much your head depends on cameras being honest until they disagree with your eyes. I went back up. I told myself it was a glitch. The car lagged. A reflection played a trick. I missaw a reflection of me and filled in the rest. I know how that sounds. It sounded worse in my own head. I cleaned faster without deciding to. I kept looking at the elevator lobby in case she showed again. I stood outside the restroom and waited to hear a sink or fan or anything that would prove someone had used it. Dry floors. No paper in the bin. Nothing. At 1:06 a.m., I was wiping the glass on a conference room door, and the elevator chimed. I looked down the hall. The doors at the far end slid open. Empty car. It waited its programmed beat, then closed. I finished 5, skipped 4 and 3, and did 2. The lights on 2 are warmer. The ceiling's lower. It feels like the building is closer to you. That should have helped. It didn't. I kept replaying the smile, how polite it tried to be. Like she was trying to make me feel better about what didn't make sense. Around 2 a.m., I brought my cart to the lobby for a fresh bag. Hernandez waved me over. You still thinking about it? He asked. I'm trying not to, I said. He pulled up an internal building document, a PDF of emergency routes. Look at this, he said, scrolling. It was an old plan, version date from years before this tower had its lobby upgraded. On the basement page, there was a line labeled, Existing Pedestrian Tunnel, Decommissioned, with arrows that once linked our building to the hospital campus underground. Does it still exist? I asked. Sealed, he said, as far as I know. Right, I said, like the floor plan had settled anything. It did the opposite. If you tell me there used to be a hallway through the ground that let hospital people drift into this building, I'm not going to stop thinking about it just because you put the word decommissioned on a drawing. I went back to work, kept my earbuds out. I told myself if I heard the elevator stop, I wouldn't go check. I'd let it do whatever it wanted to do without me. The building had other ideas. At 3:11 a.m., the doors opened on 5 again. I was on 2, but I swear I felt the air change. I wiped the lobby glass until it squeaked and punched out early with a note. Finished 2. We'll return for 3 and 4 in the morning. I slept badly anyway. The next night, I asked to swap floors with another cleaner. I took the lobby and mezzanine. He took 5 and 6. He came back at 1:30 chewing gum and shrugging. Nothing, he said. You sure you weren't just tired? Probably, I said, the way you say I don't know how to explain this without making it worse. I finished my shift, went home, and opened the elevator video again on my phone. Watched myself step aside to make room for a person who wasn't there on film. Watched myself smile and keep my hands visible like I was showing I meant no harm. It was like being filmed being kind to the air. Here's what stuck with me. The bracelet. I can still see it. The little plastic tag with a barcode. The way it caught light. But in the footage, my eyes track nothing. I'm looking into the car, but there's no angle where anything reflects like that. It wasn't glare. It had weight in my memory. I went back to 5 a week later because you can't avoid a floor forever. I pushed out into the hallway. The framed quotes looked smug. I cleaned the break room, wiped the sinks, rewound the paper towel rollers, and felt stupid for being nervous. Then, on my way back to the elevator, I noticed something I'd never paid attention to. The corridor wall near the core had an old painted-over sign rectangle. Ghost letters under beige. If you angled your head, you could read the faint shape of words. Tunnel level with an arrow down. It doesn't prove anything. If anything, it just gives your fear a place to squat. But I don't stand dead center in elevator cars anymore. I stand near the panel with my thumb over close, like that extra second matters. I keep my radio on loud enough to hear a human voice. And when an elevator stops at a floor I didn't ask for, I let the doors open and close on their own and take the next ride. If you want the most normal explanation, I was overtired and saw a reflection, or my brain decided a seam in the steel looked like a person and filled in details. If you want the version my body believes, I made room for someone who needed it, and the building swallowed her after. Either way, the result's the same. I still do nights. They pay well. I just trust my eyes and my screens equally now, which is to say, not much. I hit closed door twice, and I don't stand in the center. I'm a gremlin who stores my entire life under the bed. Chargers, socks, half a notebook, maybe 3 hair ties and a banana peel I don't want to talk about. That night, my phone decided to add itself to the underbed ecosystem. It buzzed, fell, buzzed again, slid out of sight. I told myself I'd get it in the morning. It kept buzzing. The lock screen kept lighting the dust. My brain won't let me ignore things like that. I paused my notes on psych. Conditioned response, funny enough. Dropped to the floor and pressed my cheek to the carpet. I hate that gap. It's like a mouth. Still, I did it, arms stretched, fingers walking blind along the carpet. My nails scraped cardboard from a shoebox. Nothing. I angled my shoulder, shoved my arm farther. The buzz came again, a few inches to the left, the glow bouncing off the bed skirt. Got it. I reached tips, almost. A hand clamped my wrist and pulled. No warm surprise. No, is that a prank? Thought. One hard yank and the mattress jumped in its frame and my breath went sideways. I heard skin on wood and my own elbow cracking the slat. I kicked backward and hit the bed leg with my heel so hard the whole thing scooted an inch. The hand's grip slid, not letting go, cold and dry like someone who'd been holding metal. I screamed. It came out raw. I tore my wrist free, skin burning, bracelet gone, and crab walked back, smacking into my desk chair, sending it spinning into the closet. The bed skirt swayed once and settled. No face, no eyes. Just black space and the buzzing phone, now skittering out the far side like it got punted. I grabbed it. My thumb fumbled the screen. Emergency call, emergency call. My brain knew where it was, but my thumb forgot. I sprinted for the bathroom, slipped, slammed the door, shoved the lock. My knees hit the tile. My shoulder throbbed exactly where the wood got me. I tried to breathe quiet. The fan in there is broken and sounds like a helicopter, so I didn't turn it on. All I could hear was my pulse in my ear and the apartment settling. 911 picked up. I whispered my address. The dispatcher told me to stay in the bathroom, stay on the line, and listen. Listening is the last thing I wanted to do, but I did. Steps on carpet. One pass outside the door. The kind people do when they're mapping a room they already know. The handle didn't turn. That was somehow worse. I pictured him outside, crouched, ear to the wood, the same way mine was on the other side. Both of us learning the shape of the other through a door. Then, the front door latch clicked. Not a slam, not a run. A clean latch, like he had the same key as me and used it all the time. I told the dispatcher what I heard. "Officers are en route," she said, calm like the day was normal. She asked if I could safely look from a window. I couldn't in there. I stayed put. I read cleaning product labels like they were prayers. Ammonium, isopropyl, warnings. I stared at the tiny lock on the handle and, for the first time in my life, loved a piece of cheap hardware. Sirens got loud fast outside. Someone banged the front door and called my name. I cracked the bathroom door when they told me, and it felt like the wrong move until I saw uniforms and radios and the too bright hallway light. They cleared the place in a sweep: kitchen, living room, bedroom. One officer lifted the bed skirt with 2 fingers while the other aimed a flashlight. "We've got a device," he said. "Not a bomb, a phone, a cheap burner taped under the slats, screen black. Black hoodie folded tight against the frame, tucked way up near the headboard. Seeing cloth up there, like a stashed animal, bent my stomach sideways. Window, another officer called from the bedroom. Fire escape. The paint around the latch was chewed. No prints worth anything, just smudges that could be anyone until you remember they were here minutes ago. "Did you give anyone a key?" they asked. "Roommates? Friends? Maintenance?" I shook my head on all of it. "We have a lockbox for the building, the kind with a combo, but our unit door is a normal deadbolt." I told them I'm good about locking it. I told them I'm careful. Then I remembered the delivery from last week, the bookshelf I ordered. 2 guys carried it up as a courtesy. I signed on a tablet without reading anything. They were in my doorway 3 minutes. 5, tops. Long enough to see the bed skirt and think, she's the kind who shoves stuff under there. They bagged the phone and hoodie. "We'll see what we can get," one officer said, which is the kind of sentence that sounds like something and isn't. He asked for a contact. I gave him my mom. I knew I'd have to call her anyway. This way she'd have an officer tell her first, so I wouldn't hear the pause before the panic. They walked the fire escape. Someone had tied a loop of twine to the latch on the outside, probably to pull it shut quietly from the landing. The twine had snapped. That's why I heard the clean latch. He used the key on the front on his way out, not the window. The idea that he had both options like a menu made my hands go weird. When they left, I sat on the bathroom floor just to feel the tile and think neutral thoughts like, tile, tile, tile. Then I called my mom and said, "I'm okay," which everyone learns to say first. I showered because the way my wrist felt kept insisting I needed to wash it, as if I could scrub off the shape of someone else's fingers. The water stung. The mark was ugly already, purple starting under the skin like something blooming. I didn't sleep that night. The bed was a problem, even with officers' footprints still ghosting the carpet and the blinds pulled tight. I dragged the mattress into the living room and built a camp on the floor with every lamp on. I ordered a platform bed the next morning. Solid base, no gap, no void. I also ordered window sensors, a door wedge, and those dumb little alarms that scream if you barely touch a string. I thought about moving. Then I thought about moving again. Then I set the sensors and found a neighbor in my hall who works nights and asked if we could text each other when we're both home. Casual like, "We should grab coffee," and also, "Hey, if you hear me scream, that's me." The detectives called once. We pulled a partial, they said. The phone's SIM was dead before they got to it. The hoodie had a generic brand and nothing inside the pocket except lint. They asked again about delivery crews, maintenance calls, anyone with a reason to stand in my doorway long enough to learn the room. I sent them the bookshelf receipt. They said thanks, and I could hear typing. Sometimes at 2 a.m., my upstairs neighbor moves a chair and my body tries to climb a wall. I haven't learned how to stop that. I moved my bed to the opposite wall and put the headboard against plaster. Not a window. I packed a doorstop in my backpack and carry it to the library because I caught myself locking bathroom stalls twice to test the feeling. I kept the cheap personal alarm by my keys, and it looks childish, but I don't care. 2 nights after, I stood in the doorway to my bedroom and stared at the shadow where the bed used to leave a gap. The worst part, the idea that he didn't panic when I screamed. He didn't run. He walked, tucked something under my frame like it had a slot waiting for it, moved around my space. He knew my place better than I did. People say, "At least you got out." I know. Believe me, I'm grateful. I also know what my wrist felt like for 2 seconds under my own bed. So, platform frame, window sensors, door wedge. If my phone ever decides to live under there again, too bad for it. I keep nothing under beds now, not even air. "2 a.m. on I-10 tastes like reheated coffee and road salt. I'd been pushing it, 3 more exits than I planned, so I swung into a station that looked alive enough to not be a horror movie. Sodium lights, open sign, 1 other car parked by air. The night felt hollow in that Florida way, like the humidity had taken everyone's voices and left them in the palmettos. I picked the pump under the camera dome and left the engine off. Window cracked to breathe without smelling the pump. I tapped my card, punched the zip, slid the nozzle in, set it to fill, and leaned against the car, watching bugs make bad choices under the lights. I didn't see him arrive. I just looked up and he was there with a squeegee. Mid-30s maybe, plain cap, t-shirt with some logo washed off by 100 laundromats. He had that shoulders-rolled confidence of a guy who's already decided something about you. He smiled like we'd been talking and said, "I'll get that for you," and the squeegee was already on my glass. He moved fast enough that saying no would have looked rude. "Nah, I'm good," I said. I kept my voice flat. He brightened, like we were doing a bit. "It's on the house, man," he said, still smiling. He arched the squeegee again, quick little flicks at the corners like he was proud of the details. I looked at the store. The cashier was leaning into his phone, elbow on the counter, didn't notice us at all. I looked down at the lock nub on the passenger door, up. He saw me see it. He didn't stop smiling. I hit lock on the fob. The nub snapped down. He circled the hood, casual as a dog checking a fence line, and tugged the passenger handle anyway. The motion made a sound that felt wrong at 2 a.m., a rattle that turned the air heavy. "Come on, man," he said, laugh voice. "Just need to ask you something." "If you need to ask right there," I said. I didn't like how close the nozzle handle was to both of us. The hose bowed between the pump and my car like a rope people could trip over. I put my palm on the handle, thinking buffer, thinking if he tried to wedge in, I could swing it and probably make him drop the act. He bobbed his head like we'd agreed on a joke. "You know how to get to Phillips?" he asked, chin toward the dark, nothing past the station. "Google's trippin'." "Next exit," I said. "You're going the wrong way." He ran the squeegee down the last strip of glass like he'd been waiting for the right line to finish on. "You sure?" he said, and put his hand on the passenger handle again. Turned. Rattled. Like maybe I'd made a mistake with the lock the second time. I pressed lock so hard the fob dug a dent in my thumb. He did this little shrug and laughed to himself, like the joke was finally landing, but only for him. He leaned forward and peered through the window at the seat, like he was admiring upholstery. The grease on his palm left a streak when he pulled back. I didn't posture. I didn't try to out-talk him. I popped the pump latch free, dropped the nozzle into the cradle with a clack loud enough to make both of us blink, and slid along my door to the driver's side. Key ready. I got in, doors locked, ignition on, reverse, wheel hard right. He palmed the passenger window as I pulled away and smudged a smiley face in the grease. Thought that was funny. The camera dome watched all of it like a blind eye. I rolled to the exit slow enough to not fishtail, then hit it. My GPS picked up as if it had been taking a nap. The map jumped, rerouted, spit me back to the highway. In the rear camera, he was still there, hands in pockets, smile set like he was waiting for an applause sign. The station shrank to a pool of light with a person at the edge of it, and then black cut him off. I took the next exit that had more than one building. Parked under brighter lights with 3 cars at 3 pumps and a minivan full of half-asleep kids making that soft chaos. I went inside and told the clerk at the counter what happened. He didn't look surprised. Tall guy? Cap, he said, already sliding the phone off his ear. He does that. He wrote something on a sticky note that didn't look like it was going anywhere important, then said he'd call the other store's manager in the morning. He pointed up at their camera. You were under that one, so that's good, he offered, like it could catch intent on video. I sat in my truck and breathed a minute before I got back on I-10. My hands shook once, quick like a dog shaking water, then steadied. The smear on the passenger window looked stupid and ugly and too personal. I left it. It reminded me of what could have gone worse. I've had people beg for gas money, run weak scams, try to sell church pamphlets, all of it. This was different. This was I already decided I'm getting in, wrapped in a smile. This was a guy who didn't need a weapon because he had timing and nerve and a station with dead corners and a clerk who didn't care who touched what. He didn't even have to grab, he just had to act like I'd invited him. On the drive, my brain kept replaying 2 details I nearly let slide. The way he checked the handle twice like he expected different results, and how his question about directions landed exactly when the pump clicked full, like he timed it to split my attention between the nozzle and his hand. None of that is dramatic. It's ordinary. That's why it works. I got home at 4, parked under my apartment's only camera like it could bless the spot. Before I went inside, I locked the passenger door and pulled it twice to feel it catch. New habit installed. I wiped his smear with a napkin and stuck the napkin in the trash like it could infect the rest. I set the key on my nightstand and texted myself a note. Busy pumps only. Lock between cycles. Say no before they touch anything. The next day, I called the sheriff's non-emergency line. Gave them the station address and time. We've had calls, the deputy said. Try to stick to well-lit areas and don't engage. If you feel unsafe, leave while calling us. No dramatic promise, no we'll get him, just policy. It felt boring and right. People like to end stories like this with nothing happened. Something did. A person decided to treat my car like a seat he'd already reserved. He didn't get what he wanted. That's not luck. That's planning and a little bit of not caring if you look rude. If you roll into a lonely station at a bad hour and a stranger rushes your glass with a smile and a squeegee, skip the polite part. Keep the doors locked. Keep the pump between you. If a joke is only funny to the guy telling it, it's not a joke. It's a test. Pass it by leaving. If these stories made you double-check your locks tonight, you're officially one of us. Smash that like button, subscribe so you never miss the next scare, and tell me which moment got under your skin. And if you think you can handle what really happens after midnight, click now to watch 4 disturbing dead of night horror stories. Because when the world sleeps, that's when they start moving. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.